vieron ayer un reportaje en un canal de televisión donde se dio cuenta de estos ventiladores que han llegado a...
Okay, that's great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm just going to put a quick disclaimer on the screen. This is just to say that this event will be recorded and sent to our YouTube live channel. If you would prefer not to be recorded, we ask that you leave now and kindly mute your microphone and disable your video whilst the presentation is being given. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to the culminating panel of today's Denim Day, first ever Denim Day, I think, for Fashion Open Studio. Mm-hmm. I am Susie Lau, and I'm a fashion writer based in London, and I'm joined here by a super amazing panel. We've got lots to talk about. I'm not sure how we're going to fit everything in 45 minutes, but we're going to try. I hope some of you have watched some of the amazing workshops from Anna and Patrick, who's on this panel here, and the talk that Mohsin did this morning as well. But we're really here to come together to talk about the future of denim. Big topic, and how the denim industry, fashion industry at large, is approaching this very utilitarian and universal fabric, and what are the latest kind of innovations and shifts that we're seeing, and also kind of in light of what's happening right now, you know, everyone on lockdown, how does that, you know, affect consumer patterns? What do we think we're going to see? What do we want to see? So we're going to be having a sort of panel discussion with everyone here first, and then at the end we're going to open it up to questions from people that have joined in on the Zoom here. I believe if you've joined in, you can do something like raising your hand on Zoom if you have a question. So you can do that at the end, and you can put your questions to the panel. So first off, to introduce the panel, we've got, needs no introduction, I'm sure, we've got Orsola de Castro, Creative Director of Fashion Revolution, like personal hero, kickstarted sustainability into the fashion agenda in a very, 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 very big way. We have Keith O'Brien, Marketing and Business Development Manager from Isko Denim, who basically have sponsored today's Denim Day, made it all possible. Isko Denim is one of the world's largest denim producers, with innovation at the core of what they do, as well as sustainability. We also have Mohsin Sajid, who is a graduate of Westminster University, is a highly accomplished denim specialist, lecturer, historian. What he doesn't know about denim isn't worth knowing about, I guess. And he has his own premium denim line called End Rhyme. Yep. We have Anna Foster, who is a stylist and founder of E.L.V, a sustainable denim label, and that stands for East London Vintage. And E.L.V basically takes discarded jeans, denim, and repurposes them into one-off pieces. We have Bianca Saunders, who is a young designer based in London, did her BA at Kingston, and then went on to do her MA at the RCA, and she broke out with a really unique take on Black masculinity in her collections. And she also recently launched her Autumn/Winter 20 collection at London Fashion Week Men's, featuring Isko's denim in a wonderful dance presentation. We also have Patrick McDowell, who's just graduated from CSM, BA Women's Wear, and is just starting up his brand with sustainability at its core, taking reclaimed fabrics, organic yarns, and ethically produced materials. So yeah, we've got a really a kind of diverse panel, so got a lot of topics to grapple with. But first off, we should talk about a bit about how everyone is doing amidst lockdown. Well, more importantly, maybe with regards to denim, with factories and production and how it has changed the denim supply chain. So I thought we'd start off with Keith from Isko to talk about, Isko produces, what is it, 250?
We've a capacity for 300 million meters of fabric. That's our capacity at our mill. But I mean, like everyone, this has affected our business as much as everyone's. But what we're trying to do is we're a global business, so we have offices all over the world, as well as having the factory in Turkey. Anyone who can work from home is working from home, including myself. So we're all quarantining and self-isolating at home where required. Our mill is still in operation, but albeit at a very, very limited capacity. So there are still people working there, all practicing social distancing measures and safety requirements where possible. But we've kind of had to relook at everything that we do, all of the processes that we have in place. Any customers that have offices open, we're still trying to service them. Some of our customers where they want to receive samples or fabric at their homes, we're trying to service that as well. So we're trying to work with everyone's different working environments. So I think just being adaptable is the luxury, I guess, of being in a big business is that you can adapt and try and make things work in a new way of working. A little bit easier, I guess, than smaller businesses. So I think it can be challenging, but we have the capability to be able to adapt.
Mohsin, you've consulted from like different brands, from like Levi's to high street retailers. How that kind of supply chain works with denim. How do you imagine this will impact them in terms of, are they going to be cancelling orders? Are they already cancelling orders? Physical stores aren't open.
Yeah, no, I've been a bit like Keith. I've been copied on lots of emails, lots of our clients that we work for, because we design from high street brands all the way to lots of premium brands, as well as denim mills as well. So we do everything from the concept collections that they would show people like Levi's or Primark, but we also work for those. So we work for the whole chain actually. And I've been witnessing a lot of the companies I work for. They're so nice to your face, but actually these are the same companies that aren't paying their workers. They're cancelling orders. It's all the sort of philanthropy that they've been building up has gone out the window, and it'll be interesting to see what happens after all this. Lots of relationships have been broken. And
between factories, manufacturers, and
I'll give you an example. Is a factory that I know, they got 5 million units on a boat stuck because their client in UK isn't going to pay. So they've already agreed.
Can we say who that client is?
Oh, I can name them. I'll name them at the end. It's insane. These are it's the Primarks, it's the top shops. It's all those guys who have, and it's countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh. Everyone's affected. But thing is, when you don't pay a factory, yes, the factory owners in Pakistan, they're mega rich, they're billionaires themselves. But then their own philanthropy is affected because they're not even paying up. They're not even paying their workers. So it's really strange, because I know all the owners of all these companies, and I'm like, dude, pay your workers at least. In 2 or 3 months' time, hopefully that we'll be back to some kind of normality. You can't just leave them in the lurch. So there's a big problem. And then as a fallback, we're not getting paid. So we've just done loads of work, and we haven't been paid since January. Just a lot of the clients that we work for, only because they said that we haven't. It's a knock-on effect. Obviously, we're okay in the UK. The government, I've got mortgage-free holiday for 3 months. There's things I've done to, I'm okay. But people in Bangladesh and Pakistan that aren't going to get paid, they're the ones.
That's the thing. Yeah, I think the ripple effect of this is some people can be so short-sighted when it comes to trying to, understand the impact on their own business, but it has such a wide-reaching ripple effect. And there was actually a really good article on Fashion Revolution's site about the impact this is having on the factory workers and the workers in the field. It is a massive ripple effect, and I think they need to be conscious of that.
I was going to say that there is, that if our audience or the people listening are interested in finding out more, we do have a blog on our website, which is constantly updated. We work very closely with industrial garment workers unions and with, factory owners directly in Bangladesh. And so, really, we've got a lot of information being updated almost daily on how to support and what is the best way for citizens to not just understand that it's such a complicated issue, but what we can all do actually to be a part of the solution and to really help where our help is needed. Certainly not forget about it.
The thing is, though, a lot of these companies that have said that they're going to pay, like the H&Ms and all the rest of it, we're going to pay, they haven't paid yet. So they've said they're going to pay, and but they haven't paid yet. So all these companies that have said they're going to pay, they're not paying yet. No. So they're finding excuses, going the color's wrong or the button's not right. They're finding little excuses still not to pay. And I know
the main excuse is a legal one, and it's called force majeure, and it basically implies that you can easily not pay because the law protects you if you don't.
Yeah, it's just the whole situation is very sad, Susie, to a point. We're all being affected now, but I feel very sad for the workers out there. And I travel a lot. Like, that's the reason I'm in Sussex now and not in London, because every 2 weeks I go to the airport, traveling somewhere to a factory to work. So I very much see it quite a lot, and the whole situation is really sad at the moment. And obviously, as I said, like, relationships are going to be tested. A lot of people are, someone was joking to me, going, when Asda come back again and place an order, just don't accept it. And I went, yeah, I wouldn't accept it. If Tesco's aren't paying, I wouldn't accept it. Yeah, it'll be a lesson to them. Obviously, but they'll just go somewhere else. That's the problem. And
it's so interesting how, like, obviously with what's happened, it's kind of flipped the conversation, especially with fashion revolution. We've always been so anti fast fashion and anti everything, mostly what they do, and now we're really kind of fighting for well, the workers how their wages.
Thing is, there's some companies that shouldn't be there. We always needed a little shake anyway. There was too many factories. There was too much cotton being grown. There was too much of everything. So yeah, this needed to happen, but in the way it's happened, it's quite sad. No one wants to not.
Yeah.
But sounds like you look in that. I don't really have a care about them. So for me, it's like there's some brands. It doesn't matter if they're not there. But if a smaller brand disappears, that's doing something meaningful, and that's quite sad. So
yeah, well, let's turn to slightly smaller, but still substantial. Anna, with E.L.V. sourcing denim for what you do, how has it affected? I can see behind you there's stacks and stacks of jeans. You're good for denim.
Yeah, yes. I often, I've got to a stage now where I'm a bit bigger and I have enough storage facilities so I can take a bit more denim. So luckily in January, just by chance, I visited a few wholesale suppliers and just bought quite a bit, but it was very much a random. It wasn't, because normally I buy for what I need. So I get the orders through from a wholesaler, or I decide what I'm going to promote myself in my shop. And it just happened to be that I just thought, you know what, I don't know why I went, and I just got lots of random colors. And so I do have stock, whether it's going to be enough for what I need for my production. I've yet to kind of decide. We're taking a bit of a pause. I'm up here now because it gives me 45 minutes of privacy and not being interrupted by 3 small children. So I'm here relishing the quiet. So I do have some, but I'm in constant contact with my suppliers, just chatting, seeing how they're doing. One guy's expecting a baby, so he's kind of he's now just reevaluated my kind of vision. If anyone wants to buy anything, I'll leave it in a box, but no one can come in. They take it, they mustn't come into the warehouse, because him and his brother work together, but they go in separate days. I'm speaking to another one, they're going to let me know, and we probably can have a Zoom virtual buying session where they get everything into piles, show me everything. But we have I work with these guys for quite a while now, and we have a kind of a mutual respect. So they can send things down, I'll go through it, and then I'll just send it back. That's kind of my backup plan. If we go into lockdown than kind of mid to late May.
I suppose that's the thing. It's like we don't know how long this is going to last for, so it's hard to predict how much you're going to need.
Yeah, I guess a bit like, you kind of have to make plans for the next couple of weeks, and then that has to change a bit. But I'm trying to be very optimistic. I'm speaking with my atelier, Black Horse Lane Atelier, speaking to them regularly, checking how they are, and it's mainly actually checking in with everyone to make sure they're okay.
On a human level. Yeah,
and just, Josh and I spent on the phone for an hour just chatting, talking about his baby, the child he didn't, his girlfriend said, I'm expecting. And so we spent most of our time talking about that. And that's the kind of relationships I have with pretty much everyone I work with. Like, they're part of my E.L.V. Denim family. And I think that, you're saying that lots of people are going to have relationships that are dead, whereas I'm so lucky I've built all these relationships up from a very kind of honest place.
Hand for Black Horses is one of the gems, really. So he's
it's working with people that value who you are, what you're trying to do. I work with a local laundrette, speaking with him, checking him that he's okay. I think we have to make sure that everyone around us is okay, and we're not trying to get, it will be great. I was talking to Annie and Han about it, and they say, we want to get work, we want to be working again. We really do, but no one wants to do it at the cost of someone else's health.
Yeah.
There are a few wholesale suppliers that I know are not working properly, they're not working within the guidelines, but that's not, I don't want to work with them. They're not the right people to work with, and you can't there's no price on health.
Yeah, no, I've had conversations with people where they're judging if they're going to be trying on stuff anymore. Like, I'm not going to be trying on all the jeans anymore. Loads of horrible theories and conversations that are happening.
Oh, because of the possibility of contagions on fabric, which actually dies after a few hours, I've read.
Right, but it's these, it's these fake stories or whatever it is. That's we don't know what the situation is going to be. Once we're out of this sort of a scenario, is everyone going to go and buy fashion garments again? Probably not.
Well, we're going to get onto that question, which is something that I think the fashion industry, everyone is thinking about that. But I wanted to speak to Bianca and Patrick, young designers. Very. I have to say, I am super worried personally for the young designer community in London and beyond as well, because it was already tough before. It was a very tough retail landscape, and now it's going to be even more difficult. I wonder how you guys are just getting through this period, either keeping your morale up, and what are you doing about kind of just practical things? Like Bianca, for instance, you would have been showing something in June in London Fashion Week Men's, and now that has been cancelled and can be moved virtually.
Yeah, it's been, at first, I think the most difficult part was trying to prepare for it. So I guess the couple of weeks before the actual lockdown was more like a conversation in terms of the news and stuff like that. I was more trying to get all the production out of the studio before being able to not be able to move, which has been quite difficult. So I haven't actually been able to do all my deliveries properly. Luckily enough, my mum allowed me to move a lot of my stuff back to my house. So we're currently using the front room as like a mini studio. And then I also have like the skills of like making and doing like the pattern cutting, and I can sew. So I think that does cut a lot of like problems where some brands might have. I didn't actually have employees, so I don't have as many people relying on me. I had a couple part-time people, but it's just more about, I think, being a small island by myself and knowing how to actually survive it. I think what's good is I have quite a good network of people who've been quite supportive, and it's more about trying to stay positive. I know it sounds like really like an optimistic statement, but I think it's been a good time to slow down a bit, because I guess being a young brand, trying to keep up with a lot of bigger brands has been quite a lot of pressure actually. And like using this time now, I get time to think about like what's the next steps, trying to slow down and making sure that the designs I'm producing is actually going to be useful for the future, because I think like moving forward people want items that they can kind of reuse and have for a long time, instead of like having a full throwaway time, because I've noticed a lot of people are actually trying to get rid of things that they have in the house because they have more time to think about whether it's useful or not. And I think that's kind of goes back to the conversation with denim as well too, because it's such a useful item that kind of grows with you. So that's why I kind of used it before in my collections as like a stable fabric.
Well, we're going to talk about the longevity of denim and how, you know, this crisis and beyond, you know, how it changes our relationship with an item that, you know, is like a cornerstone of most people's wardrobes. Patrick, did you have anything you want to say about corona times? I'm quite wary of the time. I realized I don't want to do too long a corona catch up.
I think it's just good to be able to think about maybe different ways that you can work that you didn't have time to explore before. And then for me, that's kind of about digitally designing a new collection, which is going to be animated and streamed as kind of like a digital event.
Patrick, can you speak a little louder because we can't hear you?
Yes,
Either that or you shove your mic in closer to your face.
I don't know if that's is that better?
No.
No.
Only fractionally. Okay. I might be a bit deaf with my old age, but you know, you never know.
I can hear you.
I can hear it. It's fine. Let's move on and talk about I think one of the biggest issues that why denim is one of the biggest kind of pollutants in the fashion industry is obviously the amount of water it requires to dye and wash the denim. I think on E.L.V.'s site, or maybe in an interview with Anna, I read it takes up to 10,000 liters per pair of jeans, possibly.
Yeah, it does. I think you have to kind of, you know, and that's the same amount that one person drinks in 13 years. It's much easier to understand and quantify it when you have that. My son's 13 and he said to me, so that pair of jeans, it's all I've drunk in my entire life. I went, yep. And he's, you know, that's it's very hard to kind of imagine the size of that many liters. So I think it's try and personalize it makes it a lot easier. So, you know, that's, you know, and I can't remember when it was, when Stacey Dooley did her documentary about the denim and the RLC, and also watching the RLC and its shrink and how the kind of knock-on effect had on the surrounding communities and the country as a whole. I think those kind of statistics are quite frightening. And I just, you know, at the beginning, we just didn't know about it. It's not as if we knew about it and we were pretending we didn't know and behaving badly. We didn't know, but now we do know. And I think, you know, revolutionary mills, like, you know, Keith, you're, you know, trying to change the way that it has been produced is definitely the steps forward. But for me, I felt that I didn't want to even touch new denim because there's such an, you know, it's an inexhaustible, is that the right word? Supply seems to be a denim. Yeah, so there's so much that I take, and I take denim that's damaged that other people, you know, there is no necessary resale value in its current state. So the brand was literally born out of that. So,
and I have to say, in all my nearly 20 years of, I don't know, working in fashion, you know, the denim industry has just grown exponentially. There are like even more brands. Like when you go to a denim floor, say like a Selfridges or a Harrods, the number of brands and fits and styles, it's just, you know.
And I think that's why, you know, people say
they all kind of look like they do the same thing as well.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so stressful trying to find a pair of jeans. You know, it can be the most traumatic experience, and I think, you know, then you get used to a style and then suddenly it changes or they don't produce it anymore.
Exactly,
So all these things I came across, it was like, this is what I don't want to do. I want to make proper fits. You measure your waist. That's the size for your waist. I'm a 24 in a certain denim brands. There's no part of my body that is 24. But I want you measure your waist. That's the size you are. There are 3 fits. They'll never change. And you go up in size. So that's, you know, when I bring a new style in, but that doesn't mean that something leaves. So I'm in a it's easier for me to do that because I'm very small. I want to stay that way. But I do think, as you say, there are lots of brands, which is fine, but then there's too much you know, trying to try, you know, one with stretch, one without stretch, one with a bootleg, one with a,
yeah. There's definitely something to be said about having too much choice. And I think having that, like, I mean, it's like going to a restaurant and there's just too many things on the menu. You don't know what to choose. And I think having a little bit more of a considered approach and to really think about the customer rather than trying to have something for absolutely everyone out there, and just really think about who you want to target and who you want to engage with. There's definitely something in that.
I need to make a point about the water, if possible.
Yeah, no, I wanted to touch on that too. Obviously,
because,
you know,
I feel that people talk about the, you know, it's. I'm sorry, I'm so obsessed with statistics, and at Fashion Revolution, it's about accuracy. It's almost worse than how we describe it. So we tend to think that the water that is consumed to make a pair of jeans or a t-shirt is lost. It's not. Water continuously recycles itself. So the reason why we are in the mess that we're in is because the water is contaminated, not used. If we were using however many liters, you know, however many years worth of consumption that were making that water better, then that wouldn't be an issue. The issue is that they're finding polyester on the top of the, you know, it's raining polyester on cities. And that's because the water is constantly recycled. So it's almost more important to make the point on the contamination rather than the use.
Well, I was also going to say, you know, there are other issues as well with like the certain kinds of dyes that are used that would also impact that, you know, and there are strides, I believe, that are being made to
lots of aniline-free dyes. There's lots of companies doing lots of advancements in the water. So obviously a pair of jeans, most of it is actually in the growing part of cotton. It's not actually not in the washing part at all. So it's most of it's on the growing. Yes, the contamination is a big problem. There are factories in the Far East, in, you know, there's a particular one, a very big one that I visited called like Cytex, and they're completely neutral, where they use, instead of having massive ovens and heating things up, they just have the garments on a conveyor belt that goes around the factory until it's dry. And they're you know, they're growing food, and they're growing, all the water's completely recycled, all the sludge from all the stone washing they make schools from it. So they're doing lots of positive, and they're completely neutral. One of the only ones that's even done it actually to this stage, and they're making another one in like LA and another one in like London. So
and LA being a, you know, obviously a center of
for sure.
So what I'm really interested in is what is the actual, can we calculate or even see the sort of take up from, you know, let's say from high street brands to premium brands, you know, what is the take up of these more sustainable mills and processes, and then also Keith, you can talk about obviously what Isko is doing.
Look, I mean, we work with brands of all different sizes, from small brands to really big high street brands. I think from our point of view, you know, you mentioned earlier, Mohsin, there's a lot of greenwashing that goes on out there with kind of every step of the supply chain. We want to try and make sure that we don't just say, you know, what we're doing. You can't just believe what we say. Everything that we do is verified by a third party. So, you know, we have a lot of third party verifications for a lot of our processes in terms of our the bodies that we're a part of and memberships that we have, as well as certifications on the fabric and the fibers as well. So that's really important to us, because it really backs up what we're saying. It's not like we're just going out there and telling people that we're green or we're eco or we're sustainable or whatever. So that's really important. And I think when working with brands, you know, it can be difficult, because I think a lot of different brands will have different models of what they want to be or what they want to do from a sustainability point of view. All of them can be good. It doesn't mean that they're all bad, but there's no sort of regulation in place to say this is the one true method of being sustainable, which is why we don't really use, in Isko, we don't really use the term sustainable that much. We try and say more about responsibility. So everything that we do is produced responsibly. And I think if you can say that and you can stick to that, then I think that's a really good place to start. But I think a lot of the certifications that are out there, and, you know, from a consumer point of view, it might not make complete sense to a consumer, all these different certifications and what they mean. For us, from our point of view, it's working with the brands, and that's how we negotiate and how we work with the brands, and how they know that we're working in a very green and ecological way.
I'll give an example. I went to one of the biggest suppliers in Bangladesh 1 year ago, LEED certified platinum. So this is like meant to be solar panels, amazingly made. They were using kids, and they supply all the high street still. So there they are, getting all the right certifications, but some, like the cotton process in general, is not really regulated. Yes, garment factories are, but the cotton spinning and the ginning isn't. So you can have a factory that's certified that a Levi's or someone would use, but actually the earlier process isn't verified still. So there's still a lot of problems.
And that's one of the things that people forget about. It's not just about the fabric, it's about the people. It's about people who are involved, making sure that they're protected, and that there's, you know, and there is bodies and there's regulatory bodies that you know, you can that protect and those types of people against that as well.
But going back to my question, you know, Mohsin, can you talk about like how the industry has, you know, taken to, you know, whatever new is coming out from innovative mills?
Okay, so we'll talk about laser finishing, for instance. So back in early 2000s, the laser machines were still quite new. I was one of the first people to use a laser machine for like Levi's Japan in 2002.
What is, just to explain to like people who don't know, what is the benefit of using laser?
If you get a pair of jeans and they've been pre-washed and they've got whiskers on and they're softer and the color's been gone, most likely about 15 to 20 different processes have been on that jean. It might have taken 3 or 4 hours. Some person's been hand grinding it, you name it. It's been worked on. The newer techniques, which have been advancing every few years, and there's 2 companies in like particular. There's one called like Tornello and another one called like Genealogia. Both amazing, and they're both doing amazing. They're kind of competitors, but they're both amazing. And if you go to any factory, any factory that makes garments that's serious, they'll have either one of those machines or both of their like technologies. So people like Primark and Topshop, they also use these sustainable machines too. So all of a sudden, you do get the likes of C&A and those guys saying we're sustainable because we use a Tornello machine, but we don't pay our workers properly. It's like a horrible scenario where they're doing some good things, but they're doing some terrible things as well. And sorry, going back to your question. So
nobody's getting it like, let's say 100% spot on. Let's say
there are companies that are doing it, but they're the ones that are, you know, there's Outland Denim. There's a few people. You know, there's a brand called I Am Me. There's some, but they're all small. You know, the moment you scale it up, it's very, very difficult. That's why Cytex, that factory I just talked about, which had the whole conveyor belt thing, they're coming to Europe. They're going to make a factory. They're saying we're going to start doing it and showing everyone up. We're going to open it up so people like Zara's and that will come to us, and we'll make it in the most sustainable way possible. That's neutral. Because right now everything's been set up. All these factories or mills are set up in such a way that they can't be. All they can do is knock down the old one and make a new one. Because even how their layout is all wrong, their setup is all wrong to be sustainable. So, you know, their recycling plant is too far away. Well, you know, there's amazing mills. Pakistan in like general has got some of the best like recycling. There's a company called Artistic Millionaires, and there's loads of them that are recycling cotton, and then they're supplying that back in. So everything is, even like Isko as well. All these guys are like sort of doing it. And but then there's Tencel and like sort of like Refibra, and there's all these other amazing, even Hemp, that are coming through that are good alternatives to cotton. That's the thing that we need to touch on more, is like, what if we can't use polyester, we can't use cotton, what other things can we?
I think it goes back to what you were saying in your talk this morning about you know, obviously there's the virgin fibers, there's the new fibers, and then there's recycling of fibers, and everyone has a different take on what they want to do in that area. You know, from us, we're trying to, you know, minimize the amount of virgin fibers that we're using in our fabrics. So we have a platform called R2, which uses reused cotton, which is all of the cotton that we take out of the that's lost during the process, and put that back into the system. That cotton might have been, like, you know, downgraded and sold for, you know, insulation or whatever, but we're putting that back in the system and then mixing that with recycled polyester, but doing that at a level that doesn't sacrifice any of the kind of the performance of the fabric. So it's still, you know, it feels and looks the same as if it didn't have those elements.
But a lot more people, Susie, are waking up to the idea of no cotton and no polyester. That's really the future of the denim world that's heading towards right now.
And there's no compromise on the, let's say, like, not the quality aspect, but like
getting there, like
performance.
I've been working with Tencel for the last 2 years and developing collections for them that they would show a Levi's or whatever. And we work with loads of mills doing it. And the task was, Mohsin, make a really authentic collection, but using Tencel. So we can convince the high street and other companies to buy into this yarn, because it is, we can't carry on doing what we're doing.
And it's basically all out there. It's just whether they take it up.
It's the buyers and the designers. making
throughout their whole, like every single,
it's
SKU
our job,
in denim.
even Keith's job to always innovate. We're always innovating.
Completely, yeah. We have a huge research and development department it's like a lab. It's constantly looking at different technology and looking at different processes to try and make them better. And I think that's what it is. A lot of it is about making the current processes better, more efficient, more environmentally friendly.
One last thing, also hemp as well. Hemp in the last few years, since the 80s has come up as a really good alternative, but it's had such a stigma, and the cotton people were the ones that did that stigma. Like in the 20s and 30s, they wrote articles, they called it the like devil's drug. They made a whole campaign about how evil hemp is, when hemp is one of the earliest yarns we ever used. We used it earlier than cotton. There's some evidence that the first jeans were made out of hemp. So only now we've come up with a new way of spinning hemp in the last couple of years, and now it looks virtually like cotton now, and it uses half the amount of time. It doesn't use half as much as water. So that's
I think that's definitely up to like branding and stylists and everyone to like come in and give hemp a new image almost.
Yeah, that's it. It's this marketing. It's the other guys. It's Keith's guys. It's all these guys who we're trying to market this fabric, this yarn in a different way. Because everyone laughs at it. They think, oh, you're going to get high off it. I mean, nah, dude, it's not like it's the same. It's like linen or whatever. You just have to know how to spin it. And
linen, flax and linen.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's just the thing is, I go and meet factory owners all the time, and there's another guy like I always meet them. Oh, I'm opening a new cotton mill, and I get really angry about it. Going, dude, just invest in something else.
Yeah,
there's too much cotton.
We should be reinvesting in. I mean, flax and linen. Really are some of the oldest fibers ever. There is evidence of them having been used, in really millennia ago, and they're still thriving. I mean, in fact, at Fashion Revolution, we're very much supported by an organization, a global organization, Selk, for the production of linen. They're kindly, really very interested in the work that we do, and we're interested in the work that they do as well, because it's one of these fibers that needs to be reintroduced. That we seem to have, really forgotten about. It lasts. It really is durable. It's easy to cultivate. It needs less pesticides.
Yeah.
And again,
bacterial. It's antimicrobial.
It just
looks that we're talking about now.
Like weed, but at the end of the day, it performs a very, very different function.
Yeah,
it definitely needs storytelling and narrative, and that is so important, I think, when getting it over the line to getting a big consumer uptake on any of these things, whether it's like as a new kind of sustainable certified, like the certifications, for instance, that
there's too many of them.
There's such a myriad of language that I think people do find it a bit confusing. I wondered what everyone's thoughts were like in terms of how all of this terminology can be really illuminated, I think, in a better way for just your average shopper.
Yeah, I remember once being in a conference many years ago, and people saying, we're anti-labels. What are we going to do? Are we going to have a little encyclopedia at the back of our t-shirts? While I'm for providing as much information as we possibly can, and I agree. I mean, I think this is one of the elements where modern technology can really play a fundamental part. The whole concept that you can scan something and find story, the whole concept of, the blockchain is interesting to me. I like the idea of technology that is married to things that we understand, that improves our lives, that improves our knowledge. And I think that there is a huge space for that. But yes, I'm obviously in agreement that right now it's haphazard, and it's in itself pretty unregulated. So
I think that's the
future, with citizens demanding more information, which we've been taking clothes, definitely not the same way that we take clothes. I mean, food. When we look at a pot of yogurt, we want to know what it contains, how many e-colorants it has, how many days will it last in the fridge. We're beginning to make the correlation that we need to ask those same questions of the clothes that we're wearing, of our own wardrobes. So I think as that progresses, and the citizens has that thirst for knowledge, then we will be able to communicate. Brands will be forced to communicate more and more accurately and eloquently about their material uses and business practices.
Yeah, I think the regulation point that you made, Ursula, is really important, because I think it's something that everyone talks about. Every conference that I go to, every fair, everyone's talking about when is regulation going to be happening. And obviously, we've left the EU now. Is there going to be different? If this comes into force, is the EU going to do it first? What are we going to do then? How is this going to be regulated going forward? I think that's a really interesting area to see what happens in that space in the next couple of years.
There are positive things.
Sorry, I was going to say, for the consumer that it's very hard, because they look at they go and say, oh yeah, but Primark can make a pair of sustainable jeans, and then and that's a £10. So why are your jeans so expensive? And you just, well, it's not just as easy as that. But I think Primark have just to make one pair of jeans, and then for everyone to, and then they make it sound like every pair of their jeans is sustainable. It really does. It's unfair, and there should be some way of them not being allowed to it's like
almost bandy that language about.
And
again,
they say,
it's become a buzzword, the word sustainable or eco or green.
But nobody understands it, and someone's one brand creates 4 pieces of denim that's sustainable, but the rest of the other stuff is, God, you can't touch it with a barge pole.
I would hope that changes now, that brands are not just, doing a conscious collection or an eco collection, that it should be something that's obviously embedded in everything they do. And hopefully that will happen at some stage. But I think the days of just having one part of your department or one part of your collection that's sustainable, hopefully that's going to die.
Every quality should have some sustainable element in it. Like a couple of mills, I'm sure you guys do it as well. Isko's, every single quality now has a recycled element in it, by default. So
that's exactly what we're doing.
So these are things, and they're not even, a lot of people aren't talking about it. Actually, 5% of every jean is recycled. There's no option that it isn't without now. And there are lots of things like that going on. But
I wanted to talk. Okay, so we've sort of talked a bit about how the larger scale mass brands operate, or what we're seeing. I wanted to talk, obviously, on a smaller scale, we can control the sustainability aspect. So Bianca, you obviously worked with Isko, collaborated with them on denim pieces for your autumn winter 20 collection. Tell us a bit about obviously the collection, why you decided to work with Isko, and how you want to incorporate denim into your work.
So that first started, I think, just looking at my company as a whole and being a young designer, it's important to kind of look at what's actually happening with the environment and trying to implement some sort of sustainable element to my company. And I really wanted to use quite a lot of denim in my collections. And I spoke to Orsola about sustainable elements I could probably impose. But I guess in terms of having a short amount of time, what was the most effective way to kind of do that? And then denim being quite harsh to the environment, I thought it'd be quite great to work with a sustainable denim company such as Isko. And then I collaborated on the autumn winter 20 collection, which I used, I think it was about 6 pieces. So I had a bag which had a wire shape in it, 2 looks which contained one denim jacket with denim trousers paired with it. Another look was a denim shirt, a waistcoat, and then denim jeans. And it's all about movement and be able to just, I guess, be free in your clothes, but not necessarily active wear, but just in terms of moving in normal.
You had your models dancing at the presentation, right?
Yeah, so I had them dance in the presentation. They weren't half of them were models, some of them were street casts. It wasn't necessarily about everyone having the best moves, because when you go to a club or any sort of party, people are dancing to have fun, and being comfortable and dancing in clothes is what I guess fashion is about, isn't it? You kind of go somewhere to dress up. So having the element was quite important to me. So I really did enjoy working with the denim, because it was having the material before actually deciding what the product was going to be, and it made it a lot easier to kind of design the collection process around what could I do next with it. So I did bleach some of the denim,
You did it at home, didn't you?
Yeah, and it's kind of made it a little bit difficult for production, because this means that like I'm trying to recreate the same sort of idea, but having to do like it all myself, which is quite fun. So
I did the same as well. I went back to my dad's house and I was in the garden, just literally, but like domestic bleach, just doing the same pattern,
like, spraying it and like trying to read and then trying to get the exact same pattern.
But I think that's what's so nice, is that each actually one would be slightly different, because that would be something special.
Yeah, and I definitely think
with trying to imitate you in the future, you know, trying desperately to do it differently, and no, God, it's still the same.
What you could have done, Bianca, is actually done a pattern yourself and then use an ozone machine to create that same pattern without any bleach. So, you know, that would have been the more sustainable way, you know. So there are ways of doing it in a later on, when you do bigger productions, you can do it.
Yeah, no, because I really want to do that same sort of technique for the next season. So I thought about making it into a pattern, because I've got like a lighter shade of denim, which I'm hoping
Just
to
message me afterwards. I'll get you in contact with some of these guys. Even laser machines in either Italy or Spain could do it quite easily.
Yeah, definitely, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right.
Connecting.
Yeah.
Patrick, you have obviously just started. You made upcycling kind of a core part of, you know, your graduate collection, and now you're starting your brand. So how is denim a part of what you're doing? Is it something that you've always been interested in? Because I read that you once recycled a pair of jeans to make a school bag when you were a teenager. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was actually the first thing I ever sewed, was that bag. And I guess that goes back to the fact that denim is a durable fabric that can be repurposed into other things after it's had a life of its own.
Not like many lives, it's not just second life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wearing jeans that I got from a vintage store that I think are from the like 80s or something, and they're completely fine. I get loads of compliments on them all the time. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, I graduated like 2 years ago, and then ever since I've been working with different brands to use up waste. Well, I'm not allowed to call it waste.
Surplus. Is it surplus?
Surplus, yeah.
You can call it waste.
I know they tell me off by saying.
You work with big. Well, can we name names?
Yeah,
Burberry, one of them. Yeah.
Burberry and Swarovski. And then interestingly, I started to have some conversations around working with brands to repurpose their unsold stock of finished garments as well, which was going to turn into some capsules for this year, but obviously but it's nice to know that they're thinking about it, because obviously there's a lot of financial gain to be had in repurposing your unsold stock instead of...
Which is a big problem in fashion in general.
15-20%, from my understanding, Susie, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
That, you know, that are brand new got thrown away.
Yeah, and this situation now is increasing the volume of all of that unsold
stockpiling. Yeah, well, because like they can't shift the stock, so there is just literally mountains of clothes in warehouses.
So I think you're probably going to see huge sales in a few months, but also there is a big opportunity around repurposing, which their designers are perfectly capable to do. And if their designers aren't capable to do it, then I think they should get new designers.
I'm really aware we've kind of got to race through, and we're already like nearly at the end of the panel. I wonder if we can go over or not.
I think we can a little bit.
Let's go over. Let's keep going. Anna, I wanted to talk to you about this. You know, E.L.V.'s kind of one of the things that you do is made to measure, and people can come to you, or they can get it done at Alex Eagle, a store in London. You know, I think for a lot of people, when they go and buy a pair of jeans, they'll go to a known brand, and they'll want the same fit, the same thing that they're used to. How easy has it been to, let's say, convert people's mindset to this idea of made to measure denim?
Well, when I first started, I thought I had this kind of idealistic vision that I would, you know, retailers would buy 30 pairs of jeans, all different shapes and sizes and different colors, and then people come in their leisure, try them on, find the one they wanted. It'll be a unique experience. And it was a bit of a wake-up call when they were like, no, we need it to kind of be we need everything to kind of fit. So I was like, okay. So I took my favorite ones and kind of made patterns based on those. And so then I did a size range. I go from 24, which is a proper 24, so it's tiny, tiny, tiny. I've got a couple of clients in America who are so small, and I go all the way up to 38. And but then all the sizes will fit the same, but all the different, each jean is still unique, because you can't make the same, you can't put the same 2 pairs of vintage jeans together. It's impossible. So it's just trying to celebrate that, and people to realize that some people struggle with the fact that it'll be slightly different when they see it. But I've been working with retailers now for quite a while, and as the 2 years have gone past, people are so much more receptive and understanding. And at first, all the retailers wanted them all to have zip flies or button flies, but now it's like, oh no, it's not so much a barrier. So now it's much easier for me to produce those, because people are more understanding of how it works. They're looking forward to getting something that's unique, despite the shape and the fit being the same. And it's, especially in a world of sameness, it's great to be different. It's great to have something different from everybody else, and that's a special quality that for me goes without saying. But right at the beginning, it was a bit of a shock that people didn't envision my kind of idealistic view. But now you can come into my shop and you can bring maybe a pair of jeans your mum had, or a friend has, and I can pair them with one of my unique pairs, and you try on a pair or existing style in the size you want, and then I make it up for you using the pairs that I'm trying to think, using all these like one-off pairs that are one-off pairs that I collect when I go there. There's some amazing details in these pieces. There's these, oh my God, there's just, with crisscrossing, with lattice weaving, everything. It's just, some of these are really special. So that's my vision, to try and create the made to measure, made to order, so you can come in and you can make your own pair out of what.
I hope you're keeping some of them for your little archive book or something.
Oh my God, I do. I show people some. They're like, I want that one. I'm like, oh really? Oh right. And I'm like, oh no. So I have to kind of try and not be too protective over it. Although I do squirrel away a couple of pairs that.
I was at a recycling plant just before COVID, and this was going to be a garment. Loads of garments were being like shredded. And there was loads of stuff from the 30s, and these guys didn't even know. Wow. I saved some of it, and I found a type 1, which is worth about $2.5 grand, to the right person.
Yeah.
Which is insane. They were like, "Oh, we're going to shred it." I was like,
But
so.
I think this is what we have to celebrate. Patrick and Bianca, you doing your pieces that are, can be one of a kind, with the upcycled, and kind of creating the pieces with the bleach on that are different from everything. And I think this is the one part, I think, if we can pause now, we've been given this forced pause, and we can try and firstly find out of the smaller brands that are struggling but surviving through and will survive this pandemic, and and get more information about them. So when we are kind of getting back to normal, we don't just go to the normal places that you would look for. You search for something different, and that's your goal. And if we can take anything positive from it.
For us with Fashion Open Studio, this is one of the things that I'm the proudest of. We've got 49 designers from the UK, and half from the UK and half from the rest of the world. And this is the time when when people talk about slowing down, we need to really put that into context. Slowing down who? Because we need to slow down the mainstream, we need to slow down the culprits, we need to slow down those brands that are producing billions of garments every year. But we don't have to slow down Bianca Saunders. We have to increase Bianca Saunders and the Patrick McDowells and
increase awareness. I mean, that is the biggest thing.
I mean, and there are different ways. When a product is expensive, there are different ways that people can maybe get together and buy it. I mean, I just received the most incredible skirt from Chopa Valowena, whom I used many years. I helped them. That skirt is incredible, but that skirt is designed to fit several different people. I mean, I'm not going to share mine for love or money, but if I was a few years younger, I'd have got together 5 girlfriends and I would have bought that skirt in 5. and it could have done 2 months with each because of the way that it's made. It can fit several different shapes. So I think we need to become creative in all of this. But I couldn't thank you all enough for, and you know, Isko for supporting, and you guys for all being here, because this is precisely the point of Fashion Open Studio, to ensure that these young brands are seen by as big an audience as possible.
Yeah. I think there's definitely something in that message. I think a lot of people are now talking more about like shopping local and, you know, supporting the independent businesses, whether that might be, you know, your local grocer or whatever. I think there's definitely that mindset that's happening now about supporting the smaller independent businesses. I hope that stays, because I think there's definitely something in that kind of shift that's happening now in consumer behavior.
I think it will stay. I think we're looking at different heroes altogether. I've said this in another panel, so I really apologize for repeating myself, but I do think it's what I'm thinking the most, that we're looking at a generation that is growing up worshipping the doctors and the nurses and the public servants. These are very different heroes to Kim Kardashian's bottom. And I think that it will stick, that we will be finding, you know, value and appreciation in different people who are less visible, smaller, and, you know, altogether quieter heroes.
I've been developing lots of collections with lots of students, and both at RCA and Ravensbourne, and each of them are different, but each of them have got one main thing in common. They're all designing collections which have like zero waste. So all the patterns are to the edges of the selvage of the fabric. There's absolutely no waste involved. And to me, that's where a lot of the advancements are going to be. So you won't have to recycle all the cuttings from the floor. You would actually, you know, even like there's a student called like Danielle from the RCA who's just about to finish now. She's a denim girl, but she spent the last month and a half designing scrubs that were completely zero waste. And she's shared that pattern out completely. And now everyone's using this pattern, and it's quite remarkable. So it's like being clever is the next stage. I think as well.
But that's it. You know, I think the future of design is to return to some kind of an intelligence. It's been fairly stupid for so long. And the propositions that we are seeing by these young designers are intelligent, and that's what design should be, you know, finding solutions rather than making problems. So, you know, that's the thing that keeps me positive and, you know, optimistic for the future. I totally agree with you, you know, Mohsin, it is really about innovation, and the students are showing it in droves.
Oh yeah, the new generation are definitely showing it. I haven't been teaching for more than 15 years now. Yeah. Even like Bianca's sort of like one of mine, which is really funny. But it's just, you know, so it's like, yeah, it's definitely a lot more younger people are a lot more clever and thinking a lot more with their hat on. Like, even
well, bless them. They wake up every morning not knowing if there is actually going to be a world for them when they grow up. You know, that whole phrase, "What am I going to do when I grow up?" has been completely catapulted out of fashion by, "Is there going to be a world for me to grow up in?" It's a very different concept to wake up in the morning.
It definitely shifts your priorities. And I remember Orsola years ago, you know, we talked about this when, you know, what we're hoping for a while, that I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, is that this younger generation will become the decision makers and the people that wield power in the industry to make, you know, real kind of industry-wide change is what we're hoping for. We're starting to see that happening, but it's still, there's still a long way to go.
Well, you've always been around, you know, to support and innovate. There's a couple of people that I can say that really from the bottom of my heart, it's you and Sarah Mower, who really have spent the time promoting and shining a light on the new generations. And I think that, you know, it's important that we continue to do so. Sarah Mino as well, you know, this is where we need to be. We need to ensure that, you know, they have the visibility that they deserve. And again, you know, being careful when we say slowing down, who we want to slow down and who we want to really promote.
Speed up. Well, not speed up, but come to the fore, I think.
Yeah. There's some questions on the chat. I don't know if you want to see them.
Yeah, let's start. Yeah, I think let's move on to questions because we've kind of gone over. I did want to speak about so many other things, but we've got such a great panel here and everyone's got such like amazing expertise. I wish we could go on and on and on. So, okay. First stuff from YouTube Live, Ashita Jain. Hi everyone, first of all, thank you for this amazing discussion. I have a small homegrown upcycling company in India and I want to Go asks, what do we think we need to change our pricing? Oh, are people gonna still, well, she also asked, will people still invest in higher quality but high value stuff?
Hopefully.
Well, which is kind of what a lot of you guys do. High quality, well, maybe it's not stuff, high quality pieces post COVID-19. And that was one of the topics that I really wanted to talk about, but we didn't have enough time, which was how does this crisis change our perception of value, quality, and especially with denim, you know, we think denim is really about longevity. Its original purpose was workwear, and it was supposed to last, and supposed to wear it over and over again. So how, you know, what do we think is going to happen post?
I think you mentioned it earlier when you were talking about people at this time. Now, I think you have two types of people. There's the people who are clearing out their wardrobe and who are getting rid of things and getting rid of their old jeans. And there's the other type who are attending events like this and trying to figure out, what can I do with that ripped pair of jeans? Or what can I do to change this into something else? I think hopefully there's more people of the latter. And I think initiatives like this are really educating people on what they can do to try and repair and mend and reuse and recycle and upcycle, or, you know, personalize their jeans to do something different. So I hope that's a new wave of what's going to come out of this, hopefully.
I think it'll be more going towards a lot more Cora product. There's still going to be innovation for sure. Even like Candiani Mill have just come up with a denim which is bio stretch, so it's not using polyester. So, you know, there's lots of innovations that are still happening, and that's going to still carry on happening. But now, because of COVID, there's going to be a lot more people that are going to be a little bit worse off. So actually designing more core products at a good price is probably what a lot of these bigger mills are going to be concentrating on a lot more, because it's going to be a crunch now. It's going to be a crunch.
Yeah, and I think, you know, going back to what you were saying earlier about more brands wanting to use more recycled materials, I think there's going to be a lot more of that. And, you know, we're working and we're constantly innovating and changing. You know, the fabric that we made with our recycled and reused materials, it's at a level that from a design point of view, you don't have to sacrifice the performance or the longevity of the item. And we're constantly innovating so we can introduce more recycled elements into that, so we can increase the amount of recycled elements in the composition, but still not sacrificing the performance, because obviously that can be an issue when you use so much recycled materials. But, you know, it is constantly about innovation.
Going back to that question about price, Susie, as well, there's going to be a place for always high end and also the lower end. That's not going to change.
Yeah.
I think brands will have, you know, will have to ask themselves a question. They will know about those warehouses. They will go inside those warehouses and they will look at this mountain of stuff and they will say, are you waste or are you a resource? That's what we will need to do. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, we are going to, you know, as we heard from Anna, suddenly realizing she's got enough, she doesn't have enough, we'll have to look at our resources, existing resources, as something that needs to be reused and not thrown. So that is a potential.
I can go into shopping with you, Anna. Don't worry, there's loads I know where to find it.
It'd be interesting to see what happens with consumerism, because I think, you know, you mentioned it earlier, Anna, I think about, you know, the people, brands making less and having less SKUs of their ranges, and is that something that's going to happen? But then you had the likes of Next this week. You know, they closed their warehouse for 2 weeks, so it was more efficient and safer for the workers to move around in the warehouse. But they said that they're only going to limit the amount that they send out a day, safely. But then they reached that limit at 8:30 in the morning, so they only were live for an hour and a half, and people were still buying loads of items. So it kind of makes you think.
But this is the problem, though. We're so conditioned to buy. And I mentioned this on my panel with Tamsin before. It's just clothes cost the same now in 2020 as they did in 1920.
Yes.
So a dress cost $20 in 1920 in New York, and now we buy a dress for £20 now. So we don't seem to realize that it's just we're conditioned to do that. So
because there's been a loss of
conditioned even more.
There's been a loss of appreciation of value or quality.
And, you know, so because in the 1920s you spend a lot higher proportion of your income on clothes, whereas now, but you spend less, but you buy more to match that amount. So I think you just have to buy better and buy less and really relish what you have. I mean, I can't personally imagine not buying something next week and then buying something the following week and forgetting how much you're in love with that piece beforehand, because otherwise we just don't have time to celebrate. I mean, I have pieces that I've had for, you know, for many decades now, and I still wear, and I love them like I did when I started loving them. And I think, you know, you find something, and you know, you find something that you feel great in. And I think that's the point, is just and discovering new ways to wear things. So everything, you know, women wearing menswear traditionally and vice versa. I think that allows for more exciting combinations to come up. But I think we just have to allow ourselves to appreciate what we're seeing, you know, not in the season. So I keep doing this now, not in the season, but allow that season to run longer. So we're not. Yeah. So Bianca and Patrick, your collection that is there, it shouldn't be out of season in 4 months, because that's how we've been conditioned to basically expect something new all the time, and
that is a
exhausting.
whole other can of worms that
oh my god, I know.
On this panel.
The calendar's all wrong anyway.
It is all wrong, but I can't even, I wouldn't be able to.
You can't get out of it. Like, we can't get out the wholesale method either, which is great in some ways to get your clothes out to everybody, but it also kind of strangles you at the same time. But
well, it's precarious, as we have seen, because, you know, we have got retailers that are going bust, and you know, department stores that are
they've got their own problems,
administration, and I think like young designers or independent designers who can operate on a smaller scale, it's up to them to like create their own pathway into how to connect with their you know, their would-be customers, talk to their audiences in like alternative ways, like
one example is like
cut out the middleman, basically.
Yeah, exactly. There's one brand in particular called Story MFG, and these guys, they're friends of ours, and they launched their brand. They didn't do the traditional showroom method or hiring a showroom or having a show. They got all their orders and made their friends in the community through Reddit.
Yeah,
wow. Nice.
You know, they made a lot of money, you know, so they didn't do the, you know, I did the trade show thing. I went to New York. I did the whole method of properly doing it. And I realized afterwards, this is not at all working, because I'm not reaching the people that I need to reach. It's a different clientele altogether.
Yeah.
So the method of how we buy and sell or make things is all changing.
But that's where social media can come into, you know, come and be a positive force, in that you can reach, you can go D to C much easier now than you.
And especially with the likes of all the trade fairs being cancelled, you know, it's still not going to stop, you know, brands and retailers engaging with suppliers and garment makers. They'll still do that. It'll just be done differently.
I've got a question from Mark Hughes. I think this might be one for Mohsin. Who is producing alternatives to cotton, i.e. hemp, that don't have huge MOQs?
Okay, I'm sure Isko can probably help, but actually a lot of the mills do, because hemp is a new thing. Now, if everyone jumped onto hemp now, we'll all be in trouble. So it's a very labor intensive. It takes a long time to harvest it at the moment, because no one's really growing it as much. So slowly, each mill's doing it. If you go to any mill, any of the mills, they're all dabbling in hemp at the moment. They're all experimenting. They're all spinning it. I know the guys at Isko, Bossa, Orsola, a lot of the Pakistani mills, are Candiani in Italy, are doing amazing stuff in hemp. They're all doing it. They had the same question also in Zoom as well. I think it was from Andrew. I think I know this guy.
Where can you get a good hemp denim, says Andrew Bannister Bailey.
Any of the mills, if you go and visit a Kingpin or PV show, you go to your favorite mill, your trusted mill, and ask them the simple question, what hemp developments you're doing. They've probably got five or 10 qualities that they'll send to you, all different price levels, selvage and non-selvage, wide and not, whatever, all different weights. They're all doing it. So yeah, it's worth looking into now.
And then there's one that I don't quite understand. How far are these, Gabriella Fidelia asked, how far are these technology in helping us know the ingredients of our clothing? I feel like that is more like a
blockchain scenario.
Well, how do we know, or how do we consumers know what's in our clothes? I don't know.
I mean, we developed we have life cycle assessments for all of our fabrics. So we have that available to our customers in an EPD format. So it's called an electronic product declaration. So that is a barcode that they'll get, you scan it, and it will give you exactly the carbon footprint of 1 square meter of that fabric. So everything to where the cotton came from, to how much water was used, how much energy was used. And then that can be used as a kind of a template for that brand to measure that against their other suppliers to see how, you know, sustainable they are, comparing it to other brands and suppliers.
I think like
Well,
Nudie
one
and
of the
some of these other ones have been doing some great, more upfront stuff about how transparent they are. But a lot of other brands are getting there slowly.
So we've just published today, we did our edition of the Fashion Transparency Index, and we've seen a massive increase in brands publishing their first year supply chain, decreases radically from second, then down to third. But we are launching a new hashtag this year, which is actually what's in my clothes.
Yeah,
it's the kind of follow-up to who made my clothes. And one of the things which I think are important is that we, you know, as I said before, that we need to interrogate our clothes as much as we interrogate our food. But the components, the composition of our clothing is incredibly important. We really need to study it hard, not just because of the issue of water and contamination. Obviously, skin is the second most absorbing organ in the body. So, you know, we also, you know, take in materials that we haven't necessarily checked. But I think that it is going to be a massive conversation for brands, you know, moving forward. The fact that consumers will become increasingly interested in understanding, you know, whether it's hemp or cotton. But further than that, the difference between hemp and cotton.
And the chemicals used to produce these.
Precisely.
Yeah. And what chemicals are still left on it, the softener or whatever.
I think this is going to be the, you know, actually, you know, for us, it was timely to launch it this year, what's in my clothes, because, you know, in a way, if you think of the word transparency, when we started Fashion Revolution, people didn't really talk about transparency, supply chain. We are engaging in a conversation that is getting more and more eloquent, more and more articulate.
Yeah.
And so I feel that the next round is really going to be about what's in my clothes.
Yeah, and that language and vernacular becomes almost like common language.
Yeah.
When we talk about when we go shopping or when we.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been asked to end on a positive note, which was what my original intention was that I wanted everyone to talk about give a quick fire. What is their idea of a denim utopia? So almost like, what would ideally everyone kind of like to see happening, you know, even if it's like it seems completely impossible or completely like ridiculous now, you know, we're at the moment where we should be doing a lot of blue sky thinking. So I thought we'd end the panel by everyone kind of giving a little bit of a dream scenario. Starting with you, Mohsin.
Oh, bless you.
I'm sure you've got a long list, a wish list.
No, I'll keep it short. It's very easy. No cotton, no polyester, no petrochemicals. That's pretty, and better CSR. That's where I stand at the moment.
Great. Bianca? And it doesn't have to be about denim. I mean, it's just maybe from your perspective as a young designer, what would you like to see?
Just more timeless pieces, things that last longer for it to not just go out of fashion.
Keith?
Yeah, I think mirroring kind of what Anna was saying earlier, I think getting that people's mindset of getting the love back into clothes, and, you know, really cherishing and loving what you have. And, you know, from that, I think a lot of other benefits will stem, you know, not overbuying and over consuming. I think getting the love back into clothes is important.
Patrick?
Lifetime denim.
Lifetime, like as in it lasts forever.
Well, yeah, and then, you know, things that can be adapted and changed as your body changes is always
something that is
kind of thing.
Always interesting. The science element. Anna?
Well, guys, you know, Keith, you kind of mentioned the whole thing that I feel passionate about. I want people to love what they receive, and, you know, trying to get people to definitely to upcycle their own clothes as they have it. I mean, you know, I'd like to see a world, I would be kind of cutting myself out of my business if I said this, but, you know, if we're the world, there'd be no more, you know, post-consumer denim waste. It would force me to rethink everything, but if it didn't, that would be an amazing place for the environment.
And Orsola?
I kind of agree with everybody else, and then I have to little disclaimer, I don't really wear denim very much. But I'm going to do a little love story to my favorite pair of jeans when I was young, because they were red. So for me, Denim Utopia is finally somebody doing red jeans again.
Oh, I've got a pair of red ones here if you want them.
No way!
Yeah, look, hold on.
Oh, oh my God, blue sky thinking works.
There you go. Susie, you're the godmother forever.
I made it happen.
Oh, no.
You can match them together. Look, come on, I'll make you a pair.
Yes,
Love it.
I beg of you. I'm ordering now my upcycled red jeans. That's what I want in life is red jeans again.
Yeah, there we go.
Amazing.
Yeah. But can I also take this opportunity, as it's the last panel of the first day, to really, really thank you for your support and for supporting Fashion Open Studio and Fashion Revolution, and for all being here and for all being brilliant.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank
Thank
you
you.
everyone on this panel for
Thank you,
taking the time. And check out all the other Fashion Open Studio events, even though there's like a wait list for pretty much all of them, which shows how popular everything is. Thank you, Mohsin, Keith, Patrick, Anna, Bianca, Orsola. See you.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Susie.
Somewhere.
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you.
Bye.